right away.
Yeah.
Instead of waiting till January.
In the attorney reviews or something?
But
this is hot
one
off the
because
press también.
It's not,
This
it's not
is-
final, that was the whole purpose of.
Okay, so this was done.
This is gonna, where you go to the section. This is the old one.
Is the new one here in the computer?
The new one is there.
Yes, I did.
This is the new one? Sounds good. Cassandra, was it the same person?
Yes.
Oh.
People will understand.
Ay, ay, ay.
Let it go.
Have you had a good week or something? Not a week from illness or anything?
Just a lot of work. I went back to work and it's like, oh,
Oh, yeah. That's the problem with, being.
but thank God my boss is still there too. And then some days I had a headache, like still sort of foggy. So I don't go the days
It's good, at least they're flexible.
Oh,
enough
yeah.
to
But then the question is, how do we
have a little humidity there.
Yeah.
Christmas.
I didn't know the tree vanishing was gonna be on YouTube. When the sun Rudolph.
Oh.
Are there trees at the Veterans Park? Did they light them?
You know what really needs to be done though? The sign is beautiful, but it's not reflective paint, and so you can't even see the sign. Yeah, it used to be because that's only sometimes because kids don't like
There it
there.
is, yeah.
Yeah.
I turned here.
Yes. But it doesn't. And I had talked to April and she had ordered for the women's restrooms.
Okay, right.
Toilets that are handicap accessible.
Okay, understood.
It's like months ago. Still not.
Roll call, please.
Mayor Luis Trujillo,
Present.
Councilor David Romero,
Here.
Councilor Barbara Casey,
Present.
Councilor Michael Montoya,
Present.
Councilor David Ulivari.
Here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a quorum.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to just take a few moments to remember the people in our community that have died. And it seems like I open the newspaper and read name after name, and it saddens me that so many of our citizens have passed. And I'd also like to say a special prayer for the rededication of the Jewish synagogue on 8th Street. And that will be happening this Sunday. And I am just so thrilled and honored to be part of this community and welcoming the synagogue and welcoming all the Jewish people to come in and have a place for worship. And I'd like to say a special prayer that the events go well. Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. Yes.
I have a recommendation on a few items before
Okay.
you approve the agenda, if I may. We'd like to recommend to remove the city manager's report. He has asked if that can be moved to next meeting, not next week's council meeting.
Yeah.
And also, if you look at business item number 2, it should state a project approval for a water treatment plant preliminary engineering report instead of just an engineering report.
Okay.
Business item number 3 should state administrative assistant instead of administrative aide. It's kind of the same thing, but we want to make sure it's assistant is on there. And then finally, business item number 5 should read 60 cents, not 6 cents. It's a typo. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Very well.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Casey,
I move approval of the agenda as amended.
there's a motion on the floor by Ms. Casey. Second, please.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
Counselor Casey? Yes. Counselor Romero? I have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Olivari. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to public input, if I may read a letter that was emailed to me in reference to Samaritan House
Sure.
by Ms. Ray Dawn. And then we also have in-person public input.
Very well.
I attended the special council meeting on Tuesday, November 29th, 2022 regarding funding for the Samaritan House. Please bear with me as this is a lengthy letter. Director George Lyons stood by a Pastor Mark Seiss, board president, began the discussion with an interesting, bold statement. He declared something to the effect that they would not accept any funding that came with conditions on how their program operated. I tried to pull the exact statement from the video, but as previously published, it is unavailable. As a neighbor of the shelter and mother to young children, I was completely dumbfounded hearing that as an opening statement. Considering the condition the shelter and surrounding neighborhood was in when the funding was pulled, I would have assumed they would be willing to implement more changes and/or conditions to their services. The public nuisance that it became in its 2 years in operation at that location is something we as a community just simply cannot allow to happen again. Let me be clear, I do not have a problem with the people who receive services there. I realize homeless is on the rise across the nation, and every city, big or small, needs to be ready to implement changes to accommodate people in need. The problem that we saw this past summer was that this area was being used and abused by some that have housing options. That is why we no longer see them there. These visitors actually take space away from those truly in need. I would also like to note that I do not have a problem with the Samaritan House's mission. At least I don't think I would if some clarity in this regard could be provided. It seems to change with every meeting, what they're doing, how they are changing, what has improved or will be. From what I've experienced, these are all broken promises which we have heard time and time again. Once those doors close at City Hall, it's back to business at 501 7th Street. Director Lyons could not even be bothered to stay the duration of the meeting to listen to questions from the council or concerns from anyone else present. He left Pastor Size in the hot seat, which he always handles gracefully. But what message does that send? At the meeting held on 7/20/22, the mayor left them with a stern, clear direction to clean their immediate area up. If it were any other business or organization, it would have likely been done immediately the following morning. If our business took all of our vehicles and parked them in the alley or blocking the street for hours at a time, we would and have been immediately cited. However, this happens twice a week where the Samaritan House hands out commodities and the recipients block the alley and the right-of-way traffic of 3 streets, Lincoln, Jackson, and 8th Street, creating a safety hazard. It took weeks for them to remove the overfilled commercial trash bin sitting illegally on the sidewalk and soiled mattress. The mattress ended up being drug across the street to our alley where it retained for another 2 weeks. Another interesting statement made was that the shelter was overstaffed during the time. Without the funding, they operate with a skeleton crew, volunteers, and generous donors. If the conditions were so poor, both inside, outside, and surrounding areas, with a robust staff, I wonder what these cutbacks will look like with a full house of guests. I realize, as Pastor Mark indicated, these guests are not prisoners. However, as a matter of public record, some individuals who have behaved in a dangerous manner on many occasions have been issued trespassing citations only to be welcomed back time and time again. I would like to kindly remind the mayor, council, and city manager that you have a fiscal responsibility to every citizen of Las Vegas. The police department previously reported an average of 8 calls a day to this specific address, not including any calls from any surrounding location. Police, EMT, and fire department responses to this area have decreased significantly. I would safely assume a 90% reduction. The amount of money spent on fencing, cleaning, sanitizing, removing the gazebo, installing new playground equipment has been a huge expense to the city and its taxpayers. I could not expect any sensible organization, government or otherwise, to invest that money, then hand out a check with no stipulations on how it can be used, only for that park and general area to go back to the conditions it was in 4 months ago. Lastly, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Moving on to in-person public input, we have April Morel, business item number 6, Samaritan Park.
Hello, good evening. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Salazar. So just to get right to the point about Samaritan House, I want to start off with saying that I do believe that it is a necessary service that we have. I mean, as stated from this previous citizen, we do have a homeless population that it can't be ignored. However, I do agree with some of the sentiments that were stated in the fact that the location is just not a good location. It is across the street from a park where children should be playing. And we know some of the activities that have gone on there, some of the businesses that have been affected, namely Allsups across the street. I've been there several times, and there are people asking for handouts. I'm a bleeding heart, so what I will do is I will not give anybody money, but I will offer food. So the last time I did that, though, I think he was the general manager, said, you know what, that's really just making the problem worse, because oftentimes what these individuals will do is they'll throw the food away. And that's not to say that all the individuals who receive services at Samaritan House are problematic, because a lot of them are not. However, that those few that are problematic kind of ruin it for everybody else. And so it is affecting the businesses in that surrounding area. I think earlier this year, I don't know if it was this year or last year, there was some type of arson near Dick's Restaurant. I think that if we can find a different location to service these individuals, will lessen the issues that we are facing with this. Oftentimes, most of these individuals need services for entry back into civilian life. So they need to get their social security card. They need to apply for disability. They need to get their driver's license. They need behavioral health services or mental health services. Is there a vacant location within the city that we can have the Samaritan House near where these individuals can perhaps walk to that? We only have one public service transit in the city. And I mean, I don't know how many drivers there are, but right now with this weather, I mean, I can't even be outside for 2 minutes, much less like walk somewhere to go get the services that I need. So if there can be some type of coordination with the the public transit that we have within the city to maybe work with these individuals, like let's say 5 individuals need to go to the Social Security office at 3 o'clock. They all have their appointments. Maybe have that coordinated well within a location though that is not going to. Yes, I understand. So just something to consider. And thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, next we have Mary Jo Whiteman on homeless sleeping.
Hello, Mayor and council members, and Chief Police and all other people present. Am I supposed to, is this better? Can you hear me? Just press the button.
There's a button there that on the side.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I hope so. And the issue of the homeless shelter,
I understand that the people right now are able to use the shelter for a couple of hours during the day to get cleaned up and so forth, but there's no place for them to sleep at night. And I think this is a recent situation, if I'm correct, and I would like to see those people have a warm and safe place beginning tonight. I think it's very important. I believe that we appreciate our warm and safe spaces. Thank you very much. I hope this can be arranged very quickly.
Thank you.
yes,
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, next we have Mary Romero on Samaritan House.
Welcome, Mary.
thank you. Is it on?
Press it one more time.
Do I have to keep it pressed? Now?
That should work.
Hello? Green. It's flickering green and red.
Try talking into it.
Can you hear me? There it goes. Okay. Mr. Mayor and Council, thank you once again for allowing me to talk. As you know, I live on Lincoln Street, a few houses west of Samaritan House, so I'm right in the middle of the whole thing. And I've lived there for 37 years. My kids and their friends grew up playing in Lincoln Park. It was a safe and quiet neighborhood. While Samaritan House was housing the homeless, we could not enjoy the park. We could not even enjoy our yard because of our proximity to the problems. Our grandkids can't even go outside because of the ranting and raving at the top of their lungs all day long, obscenities being called, and all that stuff that was going on. But I believe that during the time that Samaritan House was housing the homeless, that our Lincoln Park neighborhood had become a dangerous and unsafe place to live. It was a hardship to live there. Our entire neighborhood suffered because of the location of the Samaritan House. The last 4 or 5 months, probably closer to 5 now, since closing Lincoln Park, my husband and I call it the Samaritan House life is back. We're able to enjoy our yard and our neighborhood again. Peace and quiet has returned to our neighborhood. If the Samaritan House opens its doors, what changes are going to be made. I know Cassandra read my letter last time, but it's a real big concern. Is it going to be the same as it was before? Are we going to be hostages in our own homes again? Or are they going to really do something about the homeless? Just not overnight, but all day. They need help. They can't just kick them out to wander our neighborhood all day and then open their doors again at night at 6 o'clock, because then we have to put up with them. And I mean, it's the drug dealers move in, the prostitutes come. I mean, it's bad. And I know you guys all know it, but I can't state it enough how much this has impacted our lives. So we're just hoping that it doesn't go back to the way it was, because it is a nightmare to live with the Samaritan House there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
Mr. Mayor, that concludes public input.
Okay.
Moving on to, next item is mayor's appointments, reports, recognitions, and proclamations. I believe you have one proclamation.
I do. This is a proclamation for the rededication of the Jewish synagogue in Las Vegas. Hello. Hello. There we go. All right. And thank you to Mr. Turr, Jim Turr, for helping with the wording of this proclamation. I appreciate it very much. Whereas settlers of the Jewish faith comprised a substantial portion of the population in Las Vegas in the early years, contributing greatly to the mercantile, social, civic life of the community, as attested by many monuments dated in the 1800s and earlier in the Montefiore Cemetery. And whereas these settlers were well integrated and accepted and involved in the community, such that when Congregation Montefiore built the first Jewish synagogue in New Mexico Territory in 1884, many of the contributing funders were non-Jewish. And whereas the Jewish population of Las Vegas dwindled in the 1900s to a point that the Temple Montefiore was sold and used as a Christian place of worship and repurchased in 2022 by the Jewish congregation, again with the help from the wider community. And whereas the synagogue will be rededicated and sanctified for the use of the Las Vegas Jewish community, including Sephardic Jews and conversos, on the first evening of Hanukkah, December 18th, 2022. Now therefore I, Louis Trujillo, Mayor of the City of Las Vegas, along with members of the governing body, here proclaim December 18th as Temple Montefiore Rededication Day in the City of Las Vegas by recognizing this significant day in Las Vegas and Jewish history. I'd like to invite Sheila, Zelda, and Jim to come forward to accept this proclamation.
You're the president. Yes. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Did you get a picture?
Yes, I did, but I can get another.
Oh, he's taking the pictures.
I'm trying, I got it.
He's your official historian.
Yes.
Okay,
He is.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we're so excited to have the place open again. I'll be there on Sunday. Thank you, Cassandra.
Mr. Mayor, do you have a report?
I do. Today, the New Mexico Tourism Commission visited Las Vegas for their first meeting since the pandemic took place. And their meeting was at the Castañeda. And they were interested in hearing from me and a couple of the other community members regarding the challenges that we're facing with tourism. And it was really refreshing to know that they offered help to the tune of, I think it was over $1 million extra in advertising for Las Vegas. And they want to help us with the Rodriguez Field, with creating special grants. And they were interested in hearing about tourism. And so it was very exciting to have them here. The secretary was here, the assistant secretary, and all the commissioners were here. They'll be spending the night in Las Vegas, and it was just a pleasure to have them all here. The other thing I'd like to say is thank you to the city crews once again. The holiday lights look spectacular, and they're wonderful. And I was telling Sheila, next year I'd like to see a big menorah in the park as well. That would be wonderful. So we have a project to work on for next Christmas and Hanukkah. So that's it. Thank you.
The agenda is councilors' reports.
Councilors,
Mr. Mayor.
go ahead.
Yeah, I just got an email a few minutes ago, and I'd just like to go ahead and let the public know and our audience today that we have an individual by the name of Robert Archuleta on contract. And as per direction of their city manager and mayor and council, we do have a list of capital outlay priorities for the city of Las Vegas that will be coming back to mayor and council for final approval. And our deadline to submit those would be on January the 12th. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Montoya. And thank you to Mr. Archuleta for working on that list and making it current. Councilors?
Mr. Mayor?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No,
ladies
go ahead.
first.
Okay. I was just going to add to what Mr. Councilor Montoya stated about Mr. Archuleta. He is a contract employee, and in the short time he has been here, he has filed paperwork and been able to receive money from the state, over $1.3 million in the short time he's been here. And that is from filing paperwork that had not been filed previously. And he is doing a fantastic job for the city. And I want people to know that, you know, the city is working really hard to make sure that everything is done to benefit the citizens of the community. And so I want to commend him. I also want to thank everyone who has, I consider myself really very, very lucky. I have a lot of people, constituents and non-constituents, that call me up to talk to me about different issues that are happening in the city. And it doesn't matter what department I call, I always have a quick response, a polite response. Nobody ever says, oh gosh, it's her again. They might think it, but they never say it. But I appreciate the hard work that everybody does here in the city, from the police chief, HR, deputy city manager, the city manager, city clerk, deputy city clerk, business office. It doesn't matter what department you call. They are always willing to address the issue, and if they don't have an answer right away, they always get back to me in a reasonable amount of time so that I can respond to constituents. And they all go the extra mile to do that. And I appreciate that very, very much. So I'm proud to be a part of this council because I have the opportunity to work with such wonderful people, and I appreciate them greatly. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara. Mr. Romero?
Mr. Mayor, first off, I want to thank Cassandra and her staff and anybody who participated in the decorations here in the chambers. It's, festive and looks nice, so thank you for all you do, because you really don't have to do that. We just have our meetings, but you make that extra effort, and if you see it on TV right now, it looks nice, so you set that up perfectly. I don't know if that was planned. But also, Mayor, as you mentioned, and others, just continue to thank the staff, because for every 2 calls that we get with complaints, there's probably about 10 calls that, they're grateful for everything that we've done. So that says a lot, and we're moving along. Are we perfect? We never will be. There'll always be one glitch that we have to go through or one hurdle to jump over, and we'll continue to do that with this council. And for the most part, I think, we're very professional. We keep it, we're on the same page. We just want better for our community. So like Councilor Casey said, it's a privilege to be a part of this council, and as the new year comes, we'll continue to tackle it. And I mean, every one of us is, fighting hard. There's not one of us taking a break. We're, behind the scenes doing so many things, and I don't think I've seen that before. So with that, Chief, I just want to kind of see if possible. I know in my ward's been a lot of thefts and burglary. If you could kind of, I know you were already on it. I had that talk with you, but just, Christmas time, it seems to bring that type of activity up. So you just keep that on your radar, even though I know it is, but just I publicly bring that up to you. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Romero.
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Ulibarri?
I do want to thank everybody too, because especially the street director, they've done a lot of, every time I call, they do a lot of work on the west side and all over the city, but we taking care of a lot of problems that we have on the west side. And our code enforcement's done a good job for us too. We're taking care of a lot of abandoned vehicles that are on our city streets, and it's, and our population on dogs are they're taking care of that too. So I want to thank the director and all the city staff for the good job they're doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ulibarri. Next order of business, please.
Mr. Mayor, approval of minutes for November 29th, 2022.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero?
Cassandra, I have a question. I know that we had our issues recording and having the proper, and I hate to put this burden on you. You did a great job with the minutes, but I guess just my suggestion, Mr. Mayor, there was no discussion taken. I don't know how you guys feel about the minutes. I'd hate to leave, certain comments that were said during that meeting to be left out. So I don't know the legalities on that. I know you could be as vague, just basically you could just take action of what was, what was taken action. But I just, in my opinion, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if that meeting is actually kind of valid without the recording. That's my opinion. I'll just leave that as that comment. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you.
If I can respond to that, the meeting is valid. We only have to have action item on there for it to be legal, who was present, who was absent, the time it ended. We can summarize. Unfortunately, I was just trying from, mental note to remember what was said, and I didn't want to misquote anybody. So I just
And I guess
basically
that's
summarized.
I hate to put the burden on you, 'cause
So I can tell you that won't happen again, because from here on out, I will be recording. I will have a backup. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Cassandra.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So, Mr. Councilman Romero, are you saying that maybe as councilors could go to Cassandra and give her some of what was said on their behalf, or?
right now, yeah.
Yeah. So we can always approve this later then, can we?
It should be approved at the next meeting is what the law states. But if you want to continue it for the following meeting and give me your notes, or
I'll request that you, that anybody that has any difference or any input or said anything
On that meeting, to get together with Cassandra, and then you can bring it back at our next meeting for approval.
the minutes?
is that a motion, Counselor? Is that a motion?
Yes, that's a motion. Is that?
There's a motion on the floor to leave the minutes open until the next meeting.
Counselor, thank you for that, but I would just, to me, my opinion is just, I would just reject these minutes. I'm sorry, Cassandra, I know you worked hard on them, and was very difficult for, but that's just my opinion. I wouldn't, even if we table it and bring it up, I'll just reject these minutes.
So you have no different of input on this meetings?
I don't want to choose one person's input over another and leave it. I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. I'll rescind my motion, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Is there another motion on the floor?
I make a motion to approve this minutes of
Second.
November the 29th.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the minutes. Roll call, please. Second by Ms. Casey.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya? Counselor Casey? Counselor Romero?
No.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to the next item, presentations not to exceed 10 to 15 minutes. We have a presentation by Mary Lee Simon Rogers and Rod Simon with Families for Philanthropy Foundation regarding the partnership with the City of Las Vegas. And they will be on virtually.
Very well. I'd like to just preface this by saying that I've been having some really good productive meetings with this group. They fell in love with Las Vegas, and they're interested in helping Las Vegas move forward. They're interested in creating a travel center out of the airport, a state-of-the-art airport travel center, if you will, of what a airport will look like in the future. And this is something that I'm going to let them explain who Families for Philanthropy is and what their mission is and why they liked Las Vegas, besides the fact that this is a beautiful place. But so are you on, Mary Lee?
Yes, I am. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
City Council. I know I've met a few of you, but I'd like to introduce my brother, Rod, who's going to take over from here and introduce the rest of our team. Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks again, Mayor and Council, for having us this evening. Just as quick introductions on the call and screen. You have, of course, it's actually my sister, Mary Lee Rogers, and then we also have Michael Wynn, who's actually from Denver. He works as an ambassador for our Families for Philanthropy Foundation, as well as other things for our family office.
Do you have, I'm sorry, Rod, do you have your cameras on?
Yeah.
You can see them there? Is there? Okay. There it is. Okay.
Oh, there we are.
Yeah. Thank you.
Oh, and then we also have Richard Walsh. Comes with us. We've worked together for a number of years. And Richard hails from the airport side of the world in the development and expansion of airports. And not only in San Francisco and Pittsburgh, but also Palm Springs airports, as well as he now drives a number of the initiatives for NASA on the eVTOL type world of the flying vehicles that are coming very quickly. We hear very quickly. And then also we have Doug Duncan, who's a master planner, works with us to help us make sure we put things in the right place and be able to develop nice, successful areas in cities. So I'd like to move to the slides if I could, if people can see those. How do somebody pulled that up before. Was that you, Michael? So as a quick background of Families for Philanthropy, it actually started a couple of years ago, and we're part of a family office group out of Southern California, as well as New York and the different cities, where it's families that have operating businesses that get together and help support the growth of different communities, as well as obviously different cities and opportunities. So we put Families for Philanthropy together is because we recognize that most of the companies, not only in the U.S. but globally, all started from families. and have been developed by families. So we wanted to get back to our roots and bring families back together and help communities and work with what we consider our people and our planet and our animals. So that's our focus is people, planet, and animals. And you can go and switch to the next one. And today we're talking about Las Vegas, New Mexico being a showcase city for some of the things that are coming out in the future. So if you, I don't know if Mike's switching the screen to slide 2. Oops. I don't know if it, is it, can you switch it? There we go. So again, with the Families for Philanthropy, the 3 main areas that we understand it to make an impact on any community, it takes a team, it takes quite a few people to make it happen. I don't know what happened there, but then we look at all the innovation around us, and then obviously we have a big initiative when it comes to climate change as a family. And if you look at the next slide, I don't know if you're pulling these up, Michael, or you know.
I am. Can you see it on the screen?
No, I can't see it, but I can. Can everybody else see that? See the slides?
No.
I'll just do my entire screen.
We can see Michael.
There
we go. We know one of the large initiatives that we've been notified as far as the Families for Philanthropy, we've been notified about the water situation in Las Vegas. We've read a lot about it. We recognize the need for water supply. So we want to put on these slides some of the areas that we want to be able to come and help the community and focus on. And that's one is the water supply, the wastewater treatment, things like that the city is running into. Go ahead, Michael. We're going to go through these fairly quickly, and then we'll get back to opening with questions. The other is we talk about a master plan for the community and developing new housing. So this is where Doug Duncan, who's on the phone or on the call with us tonight, if there's any questions concerning the master plan, this is what Doug has done. We're showing you actual production facilities that have been produced and built and integrated into communities. Go ahead, Michael. So thinking of some of the things that we've seen and Marilee has actually seen in person is the need for housing in Las Vegas, from single family housing in developments that may look like this, as well as keep moving, Michael, to multifamily type properties. And then we look at also single family properties. And go ahead, Michael. And then we also look at additional educational facilities to add these elements. These are all real projects that have been accomplished. And we look at the things that we can do at the airport. This is why Richard's on the call, if in case there's questions. This is a live project that was in San Luis Obispo, California. And then if you want to move on, Michael. And then this is areas of influence that we can help bringing industrial companies, industrial businesses to the community to help extend the population as well as jobs that could come to the community. And so our ultimate goal, Michael, if you want to continue going, is this is what we call our impact team. And you may or may not recognize the names on this list. Totally open to talk about each and every one of the entities. These are all sponsors or ambassadors to the Families for Philanthropy. We also use the Fidelity Charitable Program to issue grants. And so our ultimate goal tonight is to put toward the mayor and the council, and if you'll go ahead, Michael, is to come together and create an MOU collaborating with the city and then being able to take that MOU and all the things that we would like to accomplish together to obtain a grant to move toward providing this master plan, as well as getting through the permitting process to begin construction and doing these different projects all through the grant program. So I'm going to leave it at that with the slides, and if anybody has any questions concerning the ultimate goal to start with, please ask your questions. If you have questions concerning master planning, airport, water, any things that were on these slides, please, this is time for questions.
I'll give you a question that comes to mind when I talk to people about this, and it's why Las Vegas?
I think it goes back for a number of years, Mr. Mayor. The person that brought it back to light, of course, was my sister. I think probably 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago, really, that you said, hey, we need to pay attention to this city or this town?
Yeah, absolutely. That was January 7th, 2020 is when I was there at the hot springs. And I don't know, I think most of you that are there know my story. If not, just very quickly, that's when a miracle happened for me. And I got my eyesight back sitting there in the hot springs. So go ahead, Rod.
Yeah, so we both come from a small town in Hereford, Texas, as well as Portales, New Mexico. I'm sure everybody knows where that's at. That's at this meeting, and so that's where our interest is as a family. We've been here 4 generations now, since the late 1870s, and that's where our focus is as a family, is in the small town community. And we know that's going to be the backbone going forward. The legacy that we hope to leave as a family is that we help rural communities. And so what we're doing is teaming up with all those large corporations that you saw on the last slide, and helping them understand that what we do is we're the backbone of, for better terms, we're the backbone of America. And it was built on small communities and hardworking people. So that's a big reason.
Can you spend some time talking about the development of the airport?
Yes, I can, and I don't mind turning it over to Richard and giving him a little bit of time to talk about the redevelopment and take a couple minutes. Richard?
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Hello, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question. Where to start? Airports are, as you well know, airports are integral to the development of a regional economy. Airports are central to business and the conduct of business, and that has far-reaching implications into the community, not the least of which is a nexus for job creation, and also for the need for housing, transportation, and other. So we see the airport as being central to the overall development of the community, and the expansion of the community, and the actual sustainability of the community going forward. And what we're proposing is to look at the airport as the new technologies are coming online for aviation and transportation as a whole, to incorporate those into the overall development package for not only the community, but central to the airport.
And can you talk a little bit about grant funding and what funding would look like, and what obligation the city would have, if any, for the financial funding?
Yep. The funding, our goal is to fund the Fidelity charitable DAF with our corporate companies, corporate sponsors. And as far as what the community would need to come in with, we're really going to be looking for the community to help us with people. Being able to help us, number one, be able to complete the MOU and describe all the things that could take place, and then we'll submit that to the charitable foundation to obtain the grant, to be able to go out first of all and do a master plan of what all could be done based on the requests of the MOU that we build together from the foundation and the city of Las Vegas. The end result, we're hoping to have this funded completely by grants, in both, not just one grant, but multiple grants that could come through different organizations and other nonprofit organizations to help sustain this. So on a long term, we would look to the city to continue to help us maintain these facilities and continue to develop them on an ongoing basis with local talent, local help, and hopefully ongoing educational programs with the current university and the colleges there.
So one of the concepts that we talked about was working with the community college and New Mexico Highlands University to develop possibly 2-year degrees for people to in this technology, so that they can get to work and graduate with a job in Las Vegas. That was one of the talking points that we had, is that one of the reasons people leave Las Vegas is because there's no employment opportunity. But an education, a 2-year degree would almost guarantee that the people who get these degrees would stay here and get paid very well and have a good paying job in Las Vegas.
Yes, that is a goal. That is one of the goals of ours.
Yeah, Rod, do you want me to step in here real quick? Mr. Mayor, one of the challenges of doing this for an airport, well, there's many challenges, but if you're looking at the entirety of the community and the needs of the community, and almost as a rallying around the airport, we've talked amongst ourselves, and we've given presentations on the need for academic involvement, university involvement in a growth orientation. What are the needs of the community going forward? All of that has to be incorporated into a planning concept that ultimately addresses these issues and the needs of the community. And we've identified, along with the community, those needs being one of educational, job opportunities, housing, and a few other items, all of which will necessarily need to be incorporated into an overall planning concept that, when viewed through a planning document, what you'll see is for the airport a 5, 10, 20-year vision of what that looks like in practice. In other words, what construction is going to need to occur in order to accommodate this one given need. It's a needs-based approach.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do, Mayor, is turn it over to Doug Duncan for a few moments to talk about the housing and master planning and things that have been accomplished and how things are being accomplished in the state of New Mexico already. Doug?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, for having us tonight. I just wanted to expand on some of the experience that I've had in master planning. Almost 200 square miles of cities, infrastructure, urban development, single family, significant amount of VOTEC schools that have just been incredible successes across the nation. But basically, it's taking your vision and working with you all to create a city that is, you know, still the fabric of downtown. I mean, it's such a beautiful city, Las Vegas, and I think really wanting to enhance it and bring it to really, you know, as Richard said in past meetings, it's like a 30-year futuristic city where we're growing quickly, and we're gaining the attraction of the population by keeping people in the city and providing all of the amenities that are available. And with such an incredible location of this city, I think we can really tap into a lot of the amenities, obviously with the river, et cetera. But yeah, so we want to make sure you hear it's a team effort, and we want to, you know, have the vision of the council as we go forward. But we are willing to go forward quickly to really start to get these amenities in place as soon as possible.
Can you talk a little bit about the dependency of water in your construction?
Yeah, it's very important, obviously, and you know the most important is life safety. And so from a life safety standpoint is that we would need to overcome and make sure that we've got adequate fire, you know, protection. Then the domestic is overlaid immediately thereafter. And so that is where, you know, Rod hit really quickly on that, just on that first slide, is that is the cutting edge technology that this team will bring.
And I guess I'm talking about water, how some of these housing developments would have the ability to produce their own water.
Yes, and so that is some of the technology. You know, obviously it would be overlaid with the water rights, but Rod can expand on some of that technology currently, you know, that exists.
Yeah. Currently we have systems that basically take their atmospheric water producing technology that will take water from the air and produce. Right now we've got where we can produce about 5 to 10,000 gallons a day per unit. There are smaller units coming out that'll be for the home use, but in a development and a planned community that Doug would be putting in, we would systematically and strategically put those units throughout the property so that we could have the water supply offset what would normally be used through your current systems.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Montoya?
Rob, nice seeing you again on video instead of in person. Anyway.
Well, we'll be there in person soon. We just couldn't get there today.
Why did you guys choose that location and not some closer into the city? And how are you going to utilize the airport to its full benefit? Because I saw a lot of semi trucks there, trailers. But how is that going to work out?
On for the airport?
Yes, the use of the airport versus having this closer into town, into our city.
Richard, you want to talk about how we start at the airport and then move in?
Yeah, it's really important. You Councilmember, you bring up a really good point. And the airport may be the start, and it's certainly the ground zero, but it's not an end all to be all. In other words, you know, building out an airport for the sake of building out an airport is an exercise in futility. It has to be connected to a community that's connected to a region. And with that connectivity comes certain requirements. And those requirements are going to be driven by the community. And we touched upon some of those requirements. Like we know that there's already a housing shortage in Las Vegas. We also know that there's a shortage of employment opportunities and educational opportunities. Well, the airport stands ready with an abundance of property, a known regulatory environment, and an ease of planning that you can drive a lot of opportunity relative to those requirements at the airport, and that extends outward into the community. So it is literally ground zero that will have an impact, a far-reaching impact throughout your entire community, and ultimately it'll have a regional presence to it. And that's why the airport is so important. It's a point of interaction with the rest of New Mexico and with the rest of the country and world. It's a jumping off point. It's the city, literally the city of the future. Thank you, Michael, for that.
And a last question for you. So FAA, does it have any regulations against development this kind up there?
Well, the FAA has a tremendous amount of regulations. They have a body of knowledge that I've spent 30 years trying to sort through and figure out. Doug has some exposure into that world as well. In fact, he has a lot of exposure into that world. It's a matter. The regulations are not restrictive if you understand the regulations and how they're applied. And we are of the belief and have the experience that shows that we understand the regulations and we understand how they're applied. And we intend to apply those accordingly to the airport.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Romero.
Richard, I just, a couple questions first. But first of all, have you done many investments in New Mexico yet? And the reason why I ask, and I'm curious to find out kind of what the language in the MOU would be, because it's going to be very, just my understanding, with the anti-donation, and I understand they're going to be trying to change that this legislative session, because of course we want development, but we can't commit, and I know there's MOU and procurements that we have to kind of, run with the fine-tooth comb. I'm just kind of curious, if you've had to overcome those hurdles in a place like New Mexico with that anti-donation, and also, what's your version of kind of what the MOU would be, or what would it need to be?
Yeah, that's a Rod question, I believe.
And that's why I put the term collaborative, because we're really going to need some guidance from the city of Las Vegas and your team to help make sure that we put the MOU together properly, so that when we do submit it for a grant, that we can obtain those grants. Now, as far as investments into New Mexico, we've been in the Texas-New Mexico area for 50 years, I guess, 50, 60 years in the areas that we're talking about. We have a lot of family investment in both sides, in Texas both, and in New Mexico. As far as doing work in New Mexico, I think Doug probably has more history in New Mexico as far as doing projects, since I think he's got six or seven projects that are working live right now in New Mexico, to help us understand some of those things that you're talking about.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Romero. Ms. Casey?
Thank you. I'm also concerned about the MOU. To me, it's important to have a lot more information from you before we can start thinking about how we would develop an MOU, what our responsibilities would be, and how we go about doing all of this. I don't know. The presentation was very nice, but it's also very fast, and it's very difficult for us to really truly understand and be able to visualize what you're visualizing, because you can visualize it because you've done it other places. We've not seen it. And so I would like to maybe request a special meeting specifically for this topic only, and have enough time where we can ask questions, have more materials in front of us that we can see, read, ask more specific questions about. This is a huge responsibility for the city to enter into memorandum of understanding with an entity that, I mean, I've never heard of you. I don't know if everybody else here knows and I'm in La La Land or something, but I really need to have more information before I feel more comfortable in being able to make a decision as important as that.
I'll agree with you. That was our ultimate goal, is to be able to actually spend more time to discuss it in more detail.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. And we had talked about in one of our other meetings with the group having this kind of a meeting that Miss Casey just said, sort of hashing out who you are, what we do, who's going to do what do we owe you, type of thing. And so hopefully we can get a meeting scheduled real soon, a special meeting, and go over all those areas, and hope to have legal counsel with us at the time of the meeting as well.
We'll definitely provide a copy of the MOU so that everybody can be prepared when we get together, as well as the slides. And then, like I said, the ultimate goal was to be able to have a meeting to discuss the opportunity in more detail. That was our ultimate goal tonight.
Okay. Any other questions? Well, we thank you for your time, and thank you for being interested in helping Las Vegas thrive. It's really thrilling that there's folks out there, and thank you to Mary Lee and to all your group. We look forward to setting up a meeting real soon and talking more about this.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council, for having us.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Have a great evening.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Next order of business.
Mr. Mayor, moving on to business items. The first one is to conduct a public hearing to adopt ordinance 2215 for water project DW 5355, financing costs of a supervisory control and data acquisition SCADA system that will monitor and control the water treatment plant facility locally and remotely. So we can enter into public hearing.
I'll entertain a motion to go into a public hearing.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go into a public hearing for business item 1.
There's a motion on the floor by Ms. Casey. Second, please. Second, please.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Uliburi. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero? Yes. Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Olivari. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries. I'll go ahead and swear anybody that's going to speak on this issue, if you'll come forward. Is it just you?
I believe so.
If you can state your name for the record.
Maria Gilberti.
If you'll raise your right hand and repeat up, and I'll just ask you a question. Under the penalties of perjury, do you swear to tell the truth during your testimony to council this evening?
I do.
Thank you. Welcome, Maria.
Mayor and council. So we've already published this, and now this is the public hearing. And the SCADA system is a system for monitoring the water treatment plant, helps the treatment personnel to be able to assess the condition of the system, make plans quicker, make adjustments quicker, and to be able to address any potential changes in the system. Right now, whenever an alarm goes off, the operators have to drive all the way to the plant, walk the entire plant to try and find out what's going on before they can start to assess the issue and how to address it. So this will allow myself, the manager, and any of the operators to start that assessment immediately upon some sort of alarm or notification from the system. So it's a monitoring system. It is not a control system, so it doesn't allow anybody to hack in and make changes to the system. This was approved previously by the council for $500,000 at one point. We did complete the planning design and we went out to bid. The project came back in at $2 million instead of $500,000. The NMFA, New Mexico Finance Authority, came to our staff and said that they wanted to go ahead and fund this, increase the funding. Because of the process involved, we'd already done an ordinance once before. We needed to do a new ordinance for the new amount. So the money will be available in January, and we'll be able to move forward with this project pending the completion of the public notice and the ordinance process.
Any questions?
Mr. Mayor, the only question that I had to Maria is, Maria, and I don't remember if you were there, Mayor, I think you were with Eric from RBC Capital, and I know one of the things was the amount of loans that we have with NMFA, you know, that eventually might affect our, what's the name?
Our standing, our bonding capacity.
So I'm just kind of curious, I think we really, I mean, of course, we need it, but we might get to that point to where, you know, for future funding and things that we do need, that I'm just when these loans come up again, I think we have to have those discussions as a whole before we kind of, I mean, I know this one's already kind of been gone through, but I'm just saying that the overall picture, we need to be very careful as we proceed.
Absolutely, and I believe as part of this, NMFA does coordinate with our RBC, because they do want to look at the city standing to make sure the city can pay back the loans. And this is majority grant, by the way. But I have spoken with Eric before and about where we're at with it.
We met with him about a month ago, maybe?
About a month and a half
And
ago.
there
You
was
were
kind
there.
of-
I don't know if I was at this one.
Okay.
But I have been in the meetings with RBC, and the water portion of utilities, actual loans are relatively small. And we do want to make sure that we don't impact the city's rating.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Montoya?
Yeah, so Maria, so what was the big difference between the 500,000 and now it's 2 million? Where did that estimate come from?
We included I believe we included some other components at the facility to make sure that we did not do a half of a job. We wanted to make sure that everything was interconnected for proper assessment and proper SCADA connection. In addition, many of the materials nearly doubled in price.
And the maximum forgiveness principal amount is 1,500,000?
1.5 million is subsidy, so forgivable.
And so the city basically will be in charge for the 500,000?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, on this project, yeah. I just say that because sometimes when I listen to the man upstairs, we're not doing anything for the city. We're not doing anything for monitoring water. We're not doing anything for the future of Las Vegas. So those are the reasons I ask these questions.
Yeah,
Thank you, Maria.
I appreciate that, and I know NMFA supports the city moving forward into modern technology to help make sure that we maintain the high quality of our water.
Very well. Are there any other questions? I'll entertain a motion to go into regular session.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we go back into regular session.
There's a motion on the floor by Ms. Casey. I'll entertain a second. Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya? I have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve ordinance 22-15.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero, second by Ms. Casey. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
Counselor Casey? I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 2, request approval of Resolution 22-60, allowing staff to submit a funding application to the New Mexico Finance Authority for financial assistance and project approval for a water treatment plant preliminary engineering report.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve resolution 22-60.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero, second, please.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Olivari. Roll call, please. Oh, we have a question.
How much money?
The cost estimate is approximately $440,000 for the preliminary engineering report.
Thank you. That's all.
Thank you. Okay. Roll call, please.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, second by Counselor Olivari. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Council.
Thank you, Maria.
Moving on to item number 3, consideration to approve the restructuring of the community development organizational chart. by removing the Assistant Events Planner position and adding the Administrative Assistant 1 position. We have our HR Director, Ms. Darlene Arguello.
Welcome, Darlene. Thanks for being here.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. So back in August of 2022, our previous Community Development Director removed the Administrative Assistant 1 position and added an Assistant Events Planner. At this time, we feel there is a higher need for the Administrative Assistant 1 position to be placed back on the org chart and removing the Assistant Events Planner, just for the efficiency of the overall operations of the Community Development Department.
Ms. Casey.
I move approval of the reorganization of the,
Org chart.
the organizational chart. Sorry, it's like blank here, and I'm looking at the words in front of me, and it's like, what does that say? Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr.
There's a motion, but I had a question.
Mr. Romero.
So currently is, I don't know if to ask this or call for an executive. Is this position already being filled right now, or it's open?
No, the Administrative Assistant 1 position was removed in August of 2022, and the Assistant Events Planner was added. Currently, it's not on the org chart. We're asking to place it back on the org chart and remove the Assistant Events Planner.
Mayor.
April?
So Counselor, currently, we do have an employee temporarily assigned to the Assistant Events Planner. But if it is approved to move forward with the Admin Assistant 1, she will be placed in that position.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to enter executive session for personnel matters pertaining to personnel and community development.
Second, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion on the floor, second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Counselor Livari? Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
A reluctant yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor
And I'll make it quick, I just don't want to.
A second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. I'm sorry if we could vacate the gallery for just a second. Appreciate it.
executive session for personnel matters. I'd like to note for the record that only those matters specified in the motion for closure was discussed and no action was taken. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero, second by Mr. Montoya. All in favor?
Aye.
We are back into regular session. Next item, please.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the restructuring of community development organizational chart.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero, second, please.
Second.
Second by Mr. Ulibarri. Roll call, please.
Hold on, Mr. Mayor, Counselor Casey had made a motion.
Oh,
And then the conversation started. and-
was there a second?
No.
Okay, I'll entertain a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Romero. Roll call, please.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Have a motion by Counselor Casey, a second by Counselor Romero. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to item number 4, consideration of the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, AFSCME, Local 2851 agreement. We have our HR Director, Ms. Arguello.
Thank you. Thank you for being here, Darlene. And welcome.
Mayor, councilors, if I may, I'm Chris Armijo with Aspen Council 18. I just want to acknowledge and commend you for the work that you performed for your communities during the Calf Canyon and Hermit Peaks fire. You guys did fantastic keeping your community alive, not only the city of Las Vegas, but the surrounding communities. So I just want to commend you for that and acknowledge you for all of your hard work and seeing this happen.
Thank you, Mr. Armijo.
I'm not trying to soften you up for this. I just felt it was worth acknowledging.
Thank you, sir.
Mayor and council, we wrapped up negotiations for this year with AFSCME. AFSCME local has successfully approved and ratified the tentative agreements that we are presenting here to you tonight on the articles. So at this time, I'll entertain any questions.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Romero?
Chris, Mr. Armijo, I just, you look so happy now, previous 2-3 years ago, you were kind of frustrated. I know I dealt with you a couple times and it seems like it's been quiet. So I miss those phone calls and I'm glad that, administration and HR are working with you a lot better than what they were in the past. So that's good to hear. And I'm just glad that every year we're able to approve this contract now with no big issues. I'm sure you guys go through a lot of negotiations, but I just want to, commend our staff and also your bargaining team because it's been good on our part. And as a council, that's what you want, right? You want to make sure that your unions are working together with administration. I think, with AFSCME, for sure that's happening. So thank you.
If I may respond, Councilor Romero, thank you so much because I didn't want to come up here today and pull skeletons out of the closet. I'm just grateful for the guys, everyone's sitting there and the work that you've done with the mayor and the city, even the city manager, we got through those issues. Darlene has been fantastic. She's no pushover, but we were able to work collectively together for the betterment of our members, your employees, and the community as a whole. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Casey?
They say it's the little things that count. And to me, I just want to say thank you for number 19.2.5, the addition of 2 words where it says when an employee is absent for more than 3 consecutive days due to illness, then they shall submit a physician's statement. That one little addition, those 2 words, are going to make a world of difference for the employees. And I thank you for adding that in there because that is the one thing that most employees call me about. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much, Counselor. We appreciate that. That came up just when we're getting ready to close negotiations. We had to get that taken care of. There was just too many issues rising on that. So
Yes.
Thank you for acknowledging that.
Definitely needed clarification.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Montoya?
Yeah, just so that the public knows what we're doing here is we're approving a contract would ask me, and this is basically a 60 cents per hour raise for employees?
Yes, on Article 37 compensation.
Yes, and also, we're increasing the clothing allowance from 150 to 200,
That's correct.
and what else in general?
As far as compensation, that's it.
Okay, yeah, just so that the public knows, sometimes, like Councilman Romero said, these negotiations don't go nowhere sometimes. And I'm glad that, Darlene, you've been able to work, with Mr. Armijo on this, and I don't know who else, Leo and who else. But, it's good and great to see people working together and coming to a conclusion instead of fighting and taking it apart. You know, we're all here to support our employees, and I think you were pretty, you should have noticed it last week when we gave them a good Christmas gift present that they deserved. So I thank you for working together with us and coming to an agreement on this. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. Ulibarri?
Thank you, Mr. Armijo and Darlene. You guys, what we see here, it's really important for our employees and our city manager including, so it's nice to look at stuff like this and what's going on, what you guys are doing, and thank you for the work you guys do.
Thank you, sir.
Just for clarification, I'd like to say that 60 cent goes to non-union and union employees,
No, so right now it's just for bargaining unit employees.
just for bargaining employees. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Montoya.
If I may, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve this contract and consideration of the American Federal.
I second that, Mr. Mayor.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Montoya, second by Mr. Romero,
And everybody else on the council.
and everybody else, seconds and thirds, fourths. Roll call, please.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Romero?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Montoya, a second by Counselor Romero. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you, and thank you to AFSMI and to Darlene for a successful negotiation.
Thank you. And if I may, I'd just like to recognize our management team as well, which consisted of Scott Aaron, our previous city attorney at the time, and Dominic Chavez, our interim finance director.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Mayor, thank you. Councilors, thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm gonna
Armijo.
have to beg your leave. I have to head home and be here at 9 o'clock tomorrow at the state hospital, so thank you.
Well, have a safe trip.
Thank you, Mr. Armijo.
Next
Mr.
order of
Armijo, next
business.
time, we have great hotels, so just spend the night and spend some money, okay?
Okay, I'm gonna go check out your lights right now.
All right.
And I'm sure you can arrange a room for me there at Forensics, Mayor.
I'll call them up right away.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, item number 5, request approval of a salary increase of 60 cents to the regular hourly rate of pay to all non-bargaining unit employees who have successfully completed a 6-month probationary period, to include part-time employees with at least 1 year of continuous employment with the City of Las Vegas.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the salary increase.
Second.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero, second by Ms. Casey. Roll call us, please.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Romero? I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Casey. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Moving on to.
Thank you, Darlene.
Item number 6, consideration direction regarding the Samaritan House contract. We have our Deputy City Manager, Ms. April Gonzalez.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, April. Thanks for being here.
So at our last,
Your microphone.
Sorry. So at the special meeting on the 29th of November, we had an item on there to approve funding for the Samaritan House. At that time, after discussion, it was agreed upon that we would work on the contract before we brought it up to council. So at this time, you have been handed an outlined copy of the contract. I don't think it's in its final stages at this time, but we've reviewed it. Mr. Lyons has reviewed it, and at this time, if you don't mind, I'd like to ask Mr. Lyons to come up for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Lyons. Thank you. Any questions?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Lyons, we just received prior to our meeting an outline of changes that I guess, I don't know if it was you and your complete board that submitted to the city, and I'm just curious if you could kind of go over all those changes and why you felt those were necessary in your guys' opinion?
Sure. I need to speak in this?
Yeah.
It depends on which ones you're speaking of.
Quite a bit.
Yeah, there is.
So, I mean,
I'm not sure which copy you have. The one that is the correct copy should say service agreement between the City of Las Vegas and the Samaritan House on top. And then there was a final one that was too late, submitted late, which was revised service agreement submitted by Samaritan 12/14/22 on top, one line statement.
Mayor, if I may, just so that you're aware, as we spoke about this afternoon, I went ahead and just redlined the agreement that the City of Las Vegas had submitted to Mr. Lyons. And he went ahead and submitted his changes to me. I did not submit his contract per se. All I did was submit his changes. Yes. So it's still redlined, and everything in red obviously is what Mr. Lyons had submitted, and everything that is crossed out would be what we had originally put on there.
Want to just go through each one, or?
he wouldn't have the same copy because he probably has different, and I thought I had printed.
Do you have a copy for Mr. Lyon of what you gave us?
It's this one, correct? Yeah, I got the one that's red line.
Okay.
So just for clarification on the ones that are blacked out, those were discussions that you and City Manager Maestas agreed to for prior, or what was?
We had talked about this. We went at length, myself and the city manager and the board president, Mark Size, were there.
So at the time when you met, those were the only changes, and then finalization, then you submitted more changes, is that correct?
No, that's not correct. What had happened was that, I don't know what happened, but I kept the changes that we had agreed upon, and then I started to look at each and every section one by one. And if you look at the one that I submitted, number 19 in particular, those changes didn't transpose to the one that you have in front of you. And there was changes that we had made, and it's shown on my changes submitted.
Number 19 has been addressed, sir.
Yeah, you have the strike. Yeah, okay, there you go.
If I may, Mayor, Mayor, Council, I did speak to Mr. Lyons this afternoon. He advised that there were some changes that were not on my redlined copy. I did advise him that I went and when I was comparing ours to his, all I did was copy and paste what he wanted and where he wanted it. So where the mix-up came from, I'm not sure, but 19 was one that he said that was not correct, so I went in there and we corrected it.
So the word red line is the issue, Mr. Mayor. See, if you see number 19, it's not red lined, it's just strike through.
Right. And those are the corrections you made that you did not want to include in the contract.
Those are the questions, though, everything that's in here are we're under conversation with me and the city manager and the board president. So we had come to an agreement.
Because under 19, I think, is one of the most important pieces of the contract.
And Mr. Mayor, that's what I was gonna, if I can. So with that, I just, Cassandra, I don't know if you could, for the record, go ahead and read out the items that Samaritan House wished to reject from the contract that was submitted to them. The reason why I bring this up, Mr. Mayor, and I'll say this right now, is I feel that my constituents within the area were not given able to view this contract for their input on it, being that we received it late today, and I just want to know for the record that I feel that it was late. And, I might have more constituents come and give public input pertaining to this. But for the record, Cassandra, could you read everything that was blacked out?
Yes, Counselor. So on the second whereas, the city commits to financial support of Samaritan in a monthly amount not to exceed, and what was
Sorry,
struck.
Cassandra, number 19 specifically. What's blacked out? Sorry about that.
On number 19, what was crossed out is the shelter services and provisions, including all non-food items that are provided by the shelter to its guests and invitees shall be strictly limited to use on the shelter's location and shall not be given to Samaritans, guests, and invitees for use of the shelter's location. Samaritan shall discourage their guests and invitees from loitering or sleeping in Lincoln Park and the residents in the general vicinity of Lincoln Park. The shelter and the fence enclosed area shall conform to all city ordinances and zoning laws prior to and as a condition of any payments being made under this agreement. So that's what was striked out.
So, Mr. Lyons, could you explain that one, why you felt that should be removed from the contract?
Sure, absolutely. After reviewing this contract several times, it came to my thought that we're sending a mixed message to the public, and let me tell you why. Those of you who met with myself and the president, Dr. Casey, know that we had integrated policies and procedures that greatly protected the community as a community member. For example, individuals would not be allowed to be around Lincoln Park or the businesses as a condition to getting services from us. There would be access to the camera system to law enforcement. There was about probably 10 different components that were supposed to be put in the contract, or we had thought that they would be put in the contract. So one, you could measure us, and two, that we could respond to the concerns of the citizens of Las Vegas. Neither one of those occurred. And so what we saw here when we began to look through it was items that were probably inherited from the previous contract. And the previous contract had language such as we couldn't give blankets out to people, we could not integrate harm reduction programs, and other stuff that was mostly directed at the quality of services that we give to individuals to get them off the street. So when we saw this, we were really excited about it. The city manager and I just went through it, and after I left with him and after we discussed, we found that, first of all, we want to be very clear that we're very thankful for the city's support over the years. Don't get me wrong with that. We really are thankful. But we want to do our job better. We want to be able to be measured against something that is codified, that is listed in this contract, and none of that's in here. So it's kind of cheating not only the citizens, but the neighbors and us, because we're going to be measured with broad terms such as what's listed here. It says, provided by shelter to its guests invited shall be strictly limited to use on the shelter location. Well, I don't know if you know this, but quite a few people come in and eat that are poor in our community and don't stay there. As a matter of fact, we're up to, 700 people that are in our food distribution line already. These are people from our community. And some of the rules that are here, I know, were inherited from the past contract and would hurt us and the people of this community and look badly on the city if we didn't correct them. And so that's where that comes from. So anything that you see in here, I try to promote, encourage, increase the strength of the city's reach with us, but also give us a way to be measured. For example, the last statement in the last page, which was anybody from the city, any city employee can come in at any time whatsoever without notice. Well, that sounds cool and that sounds appropriate, but in reality, would you want someone to come into your house at any time? No, law enforcement can, and under exigent circumstances, and fire department can, and so can zoning. But anybody other than that, at any time? So I worded it in a way that kept the city intact and kept us so that we're able to comply with the rules that we're all accustomed to, a fair and balanced contract. So today, I was a little leery, I have to tell you, council members, to come to this meeting. This is the sixth time that we've been in front of you, the sixth time. If it's not in a meeting here, which is the third time here, there's other times that we've met just on the same subject matter. And it's my hope that we would, although this says it all through it, a legal reason says you don't want to be a partner with us. That's what this says in legal language all through it. We want to be with you together to be good neighbors for those people in our community. We own the building. That's reality. We're not going anywhere. Now we want to be able to accommodate and respond appropriately to the people in the community. And the way that we do that is that you hold us accountable in a manner that we can see what we're accountable to. And none of that language is in here.
I have my notes from that meeting, and you and both Pastor Size both stated the items that you thought would be appropriate for the contract. And as you state, not in there, and I was surprised that they're not in there. One was providing monthly
Statistical.
It's been a long day. Also, clients would have to do chores.
Yes, ma'am.
They would stay a maximum of 2 weeks. We discussed the issue that homelessness is chronic. We wanted also, I believe Pastor Size had mentioned a spiritual component.
Yes, ma'am.
Would be added, and keep addictions in check by having partnerships with the detox and rehab programs in the community. And also other nonprofits such as El Centro, Family Health. And also work with Social Security to help people that might qualify for Social Security disability or other Medicaid or whatever. And so those are the things that were discussed at the meeting that Ms. Gonzalez and I had with you and the other members from Samaritan House. So I had thought that the contract itself would be focused on all the legalese about, Samaritan House is going to have a license and you're going to provide, food and all that kind of stuff. I also thought that the contract would have an addendum listing those things that Samaritan House would provide to the city, to the, not the city itself, but I'm talking about the people who live in the city through the city contract. And that's not here. So I don't know if,
Even the scope of services is really loosely put together. That we added some stuff in there to help out, but it's just like an evaluation of an employee. If an employee doesn't know what they're supposed to be doing, how do you expect them to do the job to the fullest of what your expectations?
right. And so, I think all of us here recognize the importance of trying to provide for those who can't provide for themselves. But by the same token, we have the responsibility of ensuring that the money that, the city is willing to give money to Samaritan House to provide services. And first of all, let me explain that the Department of Finance and Administration overlooks all monies that are given to government entities. And they send out a letter every year to all government entities saying that public monies are not to be used for nonprofit organizations. Every city, every county commission in the state works around that by doing contracts and memorandums of understanding so that the entity that they have the contract with is providing services that are specific needs in the city or the county. So this is general language But as you stated, I think we need to have more specific language as to what items you want to delineate as services that will be provided by Samaritan House. And that should be part of the contract. And that would make it, I think, for lack of a better word, legaler with the Department of Finance and Administration. And so my recommendation, and it bothers me that we would have to postpone this again and have another meeting, but I would strongly suggest that we prepare something for next week, if we could work that fast.
Well, as you can see, I dated it. We're in a very critical situation right now. We have our own intel out there, and we're concerned that we've had at least unconfirmed one a death related to freezing in our community, and that's just unacceptable to us. I'm not trying to be pushy about this. I want to get this right. There's no doubt about it. But here's one thing that Samaritan House is very scared of. We haven't gotten a commitment from the city that they're committed to us. So we don't know. We're negotiating. It's like we're signing the contract for an automobile we've never seen. In other words, are you going to give us money or not? I think that's an answer that we've got to know, because we've got to do whatever we can to save lives that are dying. We have proof in our community now, and we can't wait till January. We've got to do this now. And the contract is something that I think that we can nail it down. I pray that we can. I am sober-minded that I want to work with you, Mr. Romero, and Mayor and Barbara and the rest of you council members to do this, because I'm not trying to take anything away from you. I think you need to take care of your constituents, and we're not against the language in there. We just want to know clearly what your expectations are, and we want it documented in this document so that we know what you expect of us. And I promise we'll get there. And if we don't, I'll make this other promise. If we don't get to where you want us to be in this contract, I think the board will agree with me that maybe it is time that we go away. But at least give us a chance in which it is in the contract and we know exactly what you want.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Montoya.
Mr. Lyons, I'm glad you stuck around this time. Last meeting you walked out and you disrespected the public by not hearing their concerns, their side of the story, what they're going through, okay?
Yes, sir.
And on here, you're saying that you're wanting to help your employees and so forth, but yet you scratched off, if you may, Madam Clerk, page 5, the third, staff and volunteers, the third paragraph, if you might read it.
So crossed out was staff and volunteers shall receive training on shelter rules and operations, crisis management, basic first aid, hygiene issues related to the homeless population, and food preparation and dishwashing. They will also be required to write a log entry for each evening. Some resources, referral assistance will be offered, and visits from a caseworker and/or social worker. Interns from NMHU will be scheduled for a couple of evenings each week.
Now, why would you want that out, thrown out?
I think, Mr. Montoya, that question comes because you probably don't know me. So let me just take just a brief few minutes, and it'll help to answer that question. First of all, I'm a father of 11 kids, and I've been in this business for 30 years. I've opened up shelters in Colorado, New Mexico, and adjacent states. I've been in this business a long time. And I teach at Highlands, and I teach the legal studies courses, the criminal law and the intro to law. I am not an attorney by choice, okay? Not because I didn't want to go to, it's because I didn't want to go to law school. I wanted to teach instead. You can't teach if you're just a lawyer. I don't know if you knew that. So in this particular section, though, anything that you put in a contract, you're going to need to enforce that. We're going to need to enforce that our employees are trained in this, but this does not touch upon that. You want to, I believe, to ensure that our employees are professional, that know the law and know the expectations. But to expect a volunteer who is, for example, knows basic first aid, and that person tells us they know basic first aid, or you're going to need to check that we're in compliance by making sure they know basic first aid. Does that make sense? In other words, the more you put in here in an area that is left for the professionals, our professionality, and you've got this covered under licensing here and professional credentials, the more you're muddling up the clearer picture, because I think what you really want is you want us to be trained and our volunteers to be aware of how to handle situations that would touch upon those.
Okay. Well, I don't particularly need them to be trained or anything. I just want my money's worth.
Yes, sir.
You know, and what I've seen in the past doesn't show that.
Well, so let's talk about your money's
Let
worth.
me ask you this. Over here, you crushed off 35 people sleeping at bed at night to, what is it?
12.
12?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So, sir, let's
Now,
look at
if you have
40,000.
35 beds and you have 3 rooms, why would you cut it down to 12 people when you don't want nobody dying out there?
Well, we are guaranteeing to the city of Las Vegas for the price of $40,000. $40,000. That won't even pay 2 employees minimum wage overnight, okay? Will not pay for 2 employees minimum wage overnight. And you're asking us to do what again? So we have made available, we guarantee 12 beds to the city come summer or winter. This is also seasonal shelter only, you should know that. So that's the reason behind that, sir.
Okay. And then the other questions I had was, really, in all reality, Madam Clerk, and I've said this before, and it's not picking on this organization or any organization, but I don't like this hand-me-downs at the last minute at our meetings. We have rules and policies and procedures in place for the city of Las Vegas to be getting on the agendas. And that means we gave direction last meeting or so that you're supposed to get together with April and Leo and your board and come up with a contract.
We did.
Before the deadline, I didn't see it on my packet. When this ladies have a deadline. And
Sir,
what was
we
the
don't- we-
deadline on the packet? Friday?
Yeah.
Friday, last Friday is the deadline on this packet.
I understand.
After that, the public doesn't know anything about what's going on, and they'll blame us for doing shady stuff.
Okay.
And to me, that's unacceptable, number one. I don't have time to read this during 5 minutes of this meeting.
Understood.
You know, I read the old one, but I didn't read this revised one. And this is only your verbiage language on a revised one. That wasn't with you, the city manager, or the mayor, or anybody else. This was your contract. This
Yes,
is
sir,
what
that was
you
just
wanted.
brought to us 2 days ago. We were only given.
But anyway, regardless, on here, you also indicate that it's $8,333 per month. And that's from December 14th to May the 30th. And if you go down to item number 1, it says that this is valid till June 30th. So there's a discrepancy there too. But, Mr. Lyons, what exactly do you want from us?
A commitment to our
Commitment.
organization. Yes, sir. Or or no. It's either way, it's fine with us.
And you think you're going to get a commitment by walking out or by bringing a contract at the last minute?
You know, Mr. Montoya, I've been, like I shared with you, 4 or 5 meetings, and I've heard the complaints of the city, of the neighbors. I went to door to door to that neighborhood when I first started 6 months ago. So it's nothing about disrespect. I personally went to each shop, I've talked to the businesses there, and what we're doing here is that, I mean, I'm a human being, and when you rehash the same thing over and over again with the same people over and over again, you know, the president was here, the president was going to take over, and that's how we had intended to do it, sir.
Well, Mr. Lyons, you know, I've had other information that says otherwise.
Okay.
And you have been rude to our staff at a time or another, and that's unacceptable to me. But I'll tell you, I feel bad for the people that are living out on the street. I feel bad for the people who have to sleep out on the street. We have churches and organizations and all that help out. But you know what? I got elected to this chair because I need to protect the people out there in the public's eye. They're the ones that elected me in here. And their public safety is more important than anything else when they're all in public in city streets or city parks. I'm not gonna have city police be out there every day, 10 times a day. Our park has been closed for how long now? Because we had to clean it up and we had to spend money on it. 40-some thousand, I don't know what it was. And we have it shut down to the public. How bad is that? How embarrassing is that for us to be closing down our facilities to the public? We haven't shut you down. But we have been trying to work with you on this contract. But it's not gonna work this way. We gave direction, you guys are supposed to get together and iron him out and bring him back in black and white. Not all this verbiage in red and not everything scratched off. One contract that you can read and clearly define what you're all about and what we're all about. And that's not happening here in my book.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I just have a couple of questions. And Mr. Lyons, could you briefly tell me what your mission is pertaining to homeless in the winter?
Yes. Well, the initial need is to take them out of danger and to bring them into warm them and feed them. But that has been the universal stop for most shelters across this nation. Samaritan House has integrated something different, that the next morning they are immediately case managed and goal set so that we can keep them off the street.
And the reason why I bring that up, I just wanted to clarify, make sure that no matter, despite you not receiving city funding, that's still your mission, right? I mean,
if we can
make sure
afford
that the
it.
homeless in this community, because obviously you operate not solely on the city funding, you have other funding sources, you get donations, you get all that. So your mission is still to protect the homeless in the community, make sure they don't freeze. Because you made a comment to me that I'm very offended, that you said basically it was our fault that, somebody, and I don't know if, we had one person freeze. And the reason why I bring this up, you're still getting funding right now. And I know we can go into this language, and I won't have Cassandra read this one, but you removed, language pertaining to, us questioning some of the funding sources in that. We do have an ordinance in place, so whether it's an ordinance or not, whether it's in the contract or not, we have an ordinance that any organization that receives city funding has to follow. But with that, you specifically said that you would only, based off the city's funding of $40,000, you could only fund to house 12 people because of funding. So I'm getting the impression that the only reason why you would help the homeless in this community is because of the city funding. I don't know if you guys got that same impression, but whether the city funds or not, I think your mission should still be to reach out with what you can. Meanwhile, while we're ironing this out, I feel like we're being pressured and it's solely on us. I think we mentioned that this is a thing that we all have to work together, not just, I feel like you're telling, well, city, it's all on you. You guys have a mission that I would hope that you guys are doing something with the homeless when they do go to your place, or are you just closing the door and say, well, the city ain't fun? I'm just curious as to, what you're doing at that point.
It's difficult to answer that question, so I'll try my best that I can. First of all, going back to the park and the leaving of this session here, I'm hearing the same things again here. The same kind of issues that were brought up 4, 5, 6, 7 times. But let's go back to the issue of funding and our mission at Samaritan House. Our mission is to warm the coal and feed the hungry, okay? And we do that the best we have within the income that we have. But frankly, and I'm sorry if this offends you, but the city needs to come up and put out some money to help us do that. We are taking care of 12 of your citizens that are from this county, from this community, and you're not paying a penny toward that. So you're expecting it to come from some other source that we have to scramble to write grants to be able to afford, and balance that with zero money that comes from the city for your ever-increasing food distribution program. You got hungry people here, you have poor people, and now you have freezing people.
Mr. Mayor, I'm kind of offended on the comments, but I'll just say, you know what, Mayor? Temporarily, if there's a way that we could do a voucher system for these homeless or something, I think that's an interim thing. Not to say that don't care about the homeless like we've been portrayed to be, but by the time we iron this out, I'm sorry, I don't feel bullied into a contract that was presented 2 hours or 3 hours before our meeting.
That's not our doing, sir.
Constituents-
Let's let the record show that's
constituents
not our doing. We were there, we were ready to go. This was just given to us 2 days ago. This contract was only given to us 2 days ago, and it has always been the mission of the city to provide that contract to us. We've never produced it ourselves.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, he is correct. It was provided to him 2 days ago. He did not reach out to us the week prior, as we all discussed. He never reached out to us. He didn't stay for the meeting, but Pastor Mark did. And he was very well aware that they had to reach out so that we could all come to an agreement, meet. Yes, there was some issues with City Manager Maestas being out for his own reasons, whatever it may be, but they never reached out to come and see me. By the time, I'm not sure if City Manager Maestas reached out to you. It was already Friday and I was not here. When I returned on Tuesday, I was able to get it out to him. He also has some really great ideas. He's right. He has at least 10 ideas that would work, but he never submitted them to me to include in the scope of work. So if I haven't seen them in writing, there's no way I could add it to the contract. So I just wanted to make that perfectly clear because I was not given the information to input. All the red writing in here is what he submitted. He had the same opportunity to add everything that he wanted into the contract, and I would have stayed till 7 if I had to try to change it, because that's what I did. I stayed late so I could get it out to them. But nothing was submitted to me except for what was in red.
And at the same time, Deputy City Manager, no attorney has reviewed it, right?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor. Mr. Montoya?
Mr. Mayor and Council, I don't see anything that I've read so far on this contract that's going to not take us back to 6 months ago. Something needs to get done, whether it's management, new policies, the commodities that you distribute on the alley, affecting your neighbors, the safety of their buildings and their businesses, so forth. There's got to be a plan, and that's how come I gave direction the last meeting we had, Mr. Lyons, to iron all those things out and bring one contract to us. We have 2 contracts here, and they're all red and black, lined out. So go ahead, Mr. Lyons.
Oh, well, first of all, my name is Mr. Lyon, one Lyon, not S. There's no S on the end of it. And then secondly, Samaritan is still awaiting for a commitment, either a yes or no, to fund Samaritan House. Do you want to fund us? Yes. If you don't, no. Let us know so we will stop wasting your time and we'll stop wasting ours.
So with that, Mr. Lyon,
Of course.
if there's no commitment tonight, you're saying you wouldn't help the homeless either?
We need to find another way to do it. We need to stop depending on you.
So for the record, you depend on the city to, even though your mission is to take care of the homeless, you depend on the city. Is that correct?
We depend on the city to take their fair share of the responsibility of the needy in our community. Yes, sir, we do.
And I guess if I'm seeing this clearly is that we can't give you a yes on funding until there's a proper contract that's required from the Department of.
Well, pending the contract, Your Honor. Pending the contract, we just need to know whether you're, because this is too much. This is, I could be writing grants, to tell you the truth. If the city doesn't want to fund us, I mean, it's unfortunate and we feel badly and we need the money, no doubt. But so say it. So say it. And we know that it's pending a contract that is reasonable to you and reasonable to us.
Yeah, and I think what, you're frustrated with the amount of time that you've taken to meet with us, and that you're hearing the same concerns over and over and over and over again, because those concerns have not been addressed.
They have from us, sir. You don't see people walking around that neighborhood. You don't see people standing on the wall. You don't see people malingering in that area. If you take the time to come and look and come and see Samaritan House, you'll see a big difference. I've only been there 6 months.
What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I'm very concerned because we just keep going around in circles. And for my part, if I had $50,000, I would give it to you right now. Unfortunately, I'm not rich. The city has money that is budgeted for Samaritan House, and I think that we should use it for that purpose. And I think that we should use it as soon as possible to help people that are out there right now freezing and 17-degree weather. My concern is the contract, and I don't know if we could, normally the agenda goes out for the council meetings the Friday before the meeting. So this agenda for tonight was out last Friday. And by out, I mean it's published on the website, and people can see it there so that they know what's going to be discussed, and they can look at things and be prepared to come to council meetings if they have to or want to. My question to, I don't really know who here is, I guess, Ms. Gonzalez and you and Pastor Paul and Pastor Saiz, if there is any possible way that you could meet with Ms. Gonzalez before Friday, which would be tomorrow, and straighten all of these items out and add those 10 items or so that you would like to see added to the contract, either as an addendum or whatever, and then clean up the contract, turn it in so that it can be published Friday, and we can redo this again and just vote to give you the money and include that money amount in the contract. And let's get this done. I don't think that we should be belaboring the point. I know that you even asked when Ms. Gonzalez and I met with you that you believe very strongly that all shelters should be licensed by the state. You also mentioned that maybe the city could develop or create an ordinance to keep people off the street corners and keep people from begging. Those are both reasonable things, and those shouldn't go into the contract because those are things that, take a whole lot of time to do, and there's no specific timeline. But you have those ideas already in mind for Samaritan House, and I think that that's a real plus. I have not seen, and I've seen several people who are obviously very much in need of clothing, of food. They don't beg. I don't know if you have talked to them already or what you have done at Samaritan House, but the people that I have seen have not come up to me when I know that they were really in need. They have not come up to me to ask for money or for help or for anything else. And so I know that you're working on this, and that gives me hope that we will not have the continuous problem that we had before you came back. And I hope that we can open the park again for the summertime for the children, and so that people can enjoy it again. Another thing I want people to know who are here tonight and people who are watching on YouTube, that the city does not own the building. It is not a city building. The Samaritan House is not a city enterprise. It is a 501c3. That means that you are on your own trying to find money wherever you can from donors, from entities that are willing to help. That's the way a 501c3 works. We are not, as a city, we are not responsible for finding a different building and moving you. That is your choice, your board. And we don't have any say in that whatsoever. We do have a say in how we would like the contract to work and what services you'll provide. You'll provide food, you'll provide clothing, articles for hygiene, those kinds of things. Help, mental health services, if you can find somebody from Highlands to do them. Or you can work with, the 100% community from El Centro that is working to get mental health services for people, services for detox and that kind of thing. So those are the things that we need to focus on to provide services for people and get it done as quickly as possible. I personally do not want to be responsible or even think that I am even a teensy-weensy bit responsible for somebody freezing to death. That's not acceptable to me at all. I don't want to burn in hell forever because I didn't take any action to help people that needed help. And so I think if we can work on something, it'll take time, it'll take, if we could get it done as fast as possible and get it on the agenda for next week, I think that that would be the fastest thing that we can do, rather than just, having to come back time after time after time after time after time, rehash the same stuff that we've heard I don't know how many times, and just take care of business and get it done. Thank you.
Ms. Casey, if
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Mr. Lyon.
I just wanted to share with you that Samaritan House is pleased to let you know that we've opened a day center. It's been open for the past several weeks, where every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday people can come in who are freezing, who are hungry, who have no clothes, who need to shower and bath, and come into the Samaritan House and get those services, as well as job applications, telephone, computer access. That's started now. And we'll continue, the day center will continue on as we begin to add more and more programs to Samaritan House. We too do not want anybody to freeze, and we'll do all that we can possibly do to prevent that from happening, but we really do need the city to come to bat. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can I, Mr. Lyon, can you, for the record, name your board? All your board members?
I can. Well, let's see.
For the record.
For the record.
How many board members?
There's 7 board members.
Okay. And I know we have a couple here, but just.
There's more than a couple. There was Dr.
You want me to help on that?
Sure, Mark. So there's Mark.
I'm president. Paul's on the board. John Jeffroy's on the board. Katie Palmer is on the board. Rebecca Moore from Highlands is on the board. Pat Alide is on the board. And we have one more that.
Ms. Hall.
That's Rebecca Moore. And then we have one more. So I helped out with 6 out of 7. It's yours now.
Denise, is Denise Charles?
Vince not on your board?
No, Denise
She's
is
that's
an
a
employee.
distribution.
She's an
Denise is an
employee, okay.
John Jeffroy, Katie Palmer.
I thought Vince Hall, I mean,
Let me see if I can pull out an old, email.
Yeah, let me look real quick.
he's in everything, so.
No, you do. No, you
Well,
do. Katie McDonough.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
Katie.
Katie.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay.
Dr. McDonald.
And,
Yeah.
again, we talk about, but I feel pressured. I can't support being pressured, but I do feel, and I'm gonna ask you this, consider a voucher system. We wanna take care of the homeless. I don't feel that's the location, but if a voucher system, or if you could be very innovative or some other way temporarily until we can iron out more help, on RFP, I mean, an RFP is something to consider. You guys need more funding, or we need to fund the homeless. We're Band-Aiding. I mean, we've been Band-Aiding our homeless in this community, honestly. And I don't mean to be disrespectful, but only saying, well, only give us 50,000 or whatever, when you should be, you know what, let's RFP this, let's get more funding, let's take care of the real problems within this community. So, I mean, it's a two-way street, you know, there's more that you guys can do. You said, Mr. Lyon, you said, well, tell me so I could write grants. Well, you should be, I mean, my opinion, you should be writing grants.
We are
as
writing
speak,
grants.
You know what I mean?
The city just needs to come to bat and pay their fair
But
share.
you won't apply till we say yes or no. I don't get that.
We won't apply. We're applying now. We're constantly applying. How do you think we have the day center open?
You made the comment, and it's on the record.
Well, let me clarify it.
Ms.
The day
Cassandra,
centers
like-
fund it. We're funded now. We write grants now. How's that for clarity? Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. What's the pleasure of the council?
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to reject the contract that was presented to us here today.
There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero, second.
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Second by Mr. Montoya. Roll call, please.
Counselor Olivari?
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Casey?
No.
Counselor Romero? I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Can you give direction on the vultures one?
No, with that, like I said, this is an issue that we have to address, and I think can be innovative ways where we're taking care of the homeless. It's not just, let's put them there and let's shove it down our throat, and that's my opinion. I have a heart for them, and I'm asking you, there's other creative ways that we could be, and I'm asking you guys to consider that. Thank you.
So, Mr. Mayor, where do we go from here then? Just leave it and we're done?
I reject, the motion here today was to
Contract's
reject
done,
the
so we're
contract that was
done with
presented to
business.
us here tonight.
No, we're not done with business. Mr. Lyon.
Do you want us to come back with a?
Absolutely.
Oh, thank you, sir.
Absolutely.
Can you meet tomorrow?
Yes, ma'am.
With Ms. Gonzalez? Mrs. Gonzalez, can you block out a couple of hours to work with Mr. Lyon and get this done?
Mayor, Council, yes, I can block out some time. I just don't know that it's enough time to get it to legal. It was commented that it has not even been taken to legal, so if we have to get it to them, we may need more time.
Can you get it to legal and express that it is an emergency situation?
I will surely try. I will block out whatever time. You need to contact me and let me know what time you'd like block out. You may call first thing in the morning so I know, because I have other meetings that I'd probably have to cancel.
Okay, I would like to request that the contract, if possible, be prepared tomorrow so that it can be on the agenda for next Wednesday with the $50,000 amount. And then we can that'll give us enough time to look at the contract and to be able to vote yea or nay at the next meeting.
Turn in by Friday.
It has to be turned in by Friday. That's why they'll have to work on it tomorrow. If they can fax it, email it, or whatever to legal to have them look it over and get it back as soon as possible before noon on Friday. And get it to our city clerk so that she can publish it on the agenda for next week.
Councilor Casey,
We can't afford to wait.
with all due respect, we could have a special meeting. I don't know, why it has to be Friday. I mean, legal, everything. I don't want it forced. I don't want. I get your thing, and like I said, be creative. Do a temporary voucher system, and let's put that on next. Be creative. Until we can hammer out. Like I said, it's not just a Band-Aid overnight and get this thing done by Friday. That's with all due respect. Thank you.
Is Friday the absolute cutoff day for the optic?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Mayor.
It's a strong deadline. Okay.
Yes.
So where would they get the money for?
We would fund them. There's legal, I mean, I guess.
We have to have a contract for the vouchers too?
That's a temporary thing for now, and that's all I'm saying. It's temporary for now.
Oh, I know, but, you know,
It's a solution, temporary solution till we,
What's that?
it's a temporary solution. That's
But
kinda what I'm offering.
if we agree on vouchers, we'd still be agreeing to some funding. We'd be still committing city funding, and that needs to be approved,
and it needs to be on a contract.
and it needs to be on a contract.
So what's the difference?
The difference is until we could finally hash out the things within that neighborhood where both the neighbors and Samaritan House can live harmoniously.
Harmoniously.
That's all I'm asking. Thank you.
Is it conceivable that legal would be able to review this tomorrow? I know you can't tell because you don't know what their caseload is like. And they may tell you, well, and then how many hours are we gonna give them? Because if you're gonna work on this during the day and prepare it, by this time, it's already 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Even if you meet in the morning, I don't know if they would feel comfortable reviewing it. I mean, so what would be?
And Mr. Mayor, if I may add, in the past, legal is actually the one that created the contract. It was legal. Right now, we don't have a legal team here, obviously, so we would have to.
Get it to the league.
We'd have to create it, then we'd have to send it. They may want changes. We'd have to approve it, then I'm not making excuses. I too have a heart, and I truly believe that, yes, people do need the help, but as Councilor Romero mentioned, we are rushing into this. I will do whatever I can to get my part done, as I just told you, but it may be difficult to get it by Friday. We just don't know. We can find out first thing in the morning when we're at work.
Is it possible to put it on the agenda anyway for next week?
We can without a contract.
Oh,
which
yeah,
was-
but
which
it
was
has
one
to
of
go
the-
out for publishing.
Which was one of the issues because the public wasn't able to view it.
Can you contact legal tomorrow morning, first thing, and say, we're working on a contract today, you'll have it by noon, and we need it back immediately?
I can.
Okay.
I just don't know what.
Yeah, I don't know what they're
Yeah.
gonna say either, but.
But I'll surely try, as I mentioned. When I come in first thing, I will get with Darlene as she has taken on some of the legal.
All right, agreed? That's,
Oh, you know, what, I just have to say about publishing in the Optic, it is actually, you can't publish on Friday. We publish actually Thursday morning.
yeah, but you require us to have our documents in by Friday at noon.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Did you publish on, like, this Friday?
To be published for the meeting.
Oh, for the meeting, not to be published in the actual newspaper?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry, I misunderstood. I thought- Yeah.
Yeah, they require everything to be in by noon. The announcement of the meeting and the prepared agenda.
Nothing else in it.
No. Okay.
And it's not the Optic, it's all outlets that we.
Right, anyone that we,
Everybody, yeah.
that we have to post legal with. So. I'll give it a try. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Next order of business, please.
Moving on to item number 7, consideration direction regarding request for proposal for lobbyist services for the 2023 legislative session. Mr. Mayor, that's your item?
Yes, it is. Thank you. As you know, there's lots of projects that we are going to need funding with. Thank you, Pastor. We think that we can do all the lobbying that we can. I don't believe that's so. I think that we can do what we can. Lobbyists have a different way of working. I know this came up in the past, but I just don't want, at this critical point with all the funding that we need for all the water projects alone, I think that it's very important that we have somebody that can lobby for the city of Las Vegas and to bring that money home. It's open for a discussion. It was just something that I think that is important to the community. We do have several millions of dollars of water projects and wastewater projects, and not to discount the Rodriguez Field, all our projects that we get on the that are on the capital plan. So it's just for the purpose of discussing and see what we want to go with it, and say yes or no. If we do, we send out an RFP. There's no one particularly in mind that I know of, that I have in mind. We would send out an RFP, and then we would then decide on the RFP. But I'll open this up for a discussion.
Mr. Mayor? Go ahead. No, go ahead.
How much money are we talking?
I don't know. I don't know what a lobbyist costs these days. And I have no idea. I know it's a pretty penny, and some of them charge more than others, but cost is definitely a consideration.
A minimum that I know is about $1,000 a day.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero?
I do concur with you on this one. I think any other year, I think we're able to do it ourselves, but being that there's a lot of projects that can go beyond just capital outlay and things like that because of the severity of what we've been through and our needs, I'm in total agreement. I mean, an RFP doesn't hurt. Let's put it out and see what we get, and see who offers the best deal. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt. At the end of the day, we approve it or don't approve it, but this year, everything that we've been through and the things that we can get, it's going to be hard for us to be there every day, us as individuals, because that's what it's going to take. So I'm all for it.
When would the RFP go out? Because the legislative session is coming up really fast.
Well, we'd have to work really, really fast. If that's the guidance for tonight, we would have to put out an RFP next week.
Mr. Mayor, I think, if it's under 50, wouldn't we just need 3 quotes on that part, on procurement? Since it's a professional service? Oh, you put a scope, but you'd get a quote, but it wouldn't really be an RFP, it would be more of a,
Nobody's
put
gonna
a
do
scope.
it for $50,000 for less than 50, I can tell you. It costs a lot to live in Santa Fe. I was in the legislature years ago, and I was paying like $7 for a bowl of oatmeal for breakfast,
I don't
You
think
can
we should-
imagine what it is now.
we should spend that much, so maybe just getting the quotes for now and seeing where it lands.
Okay, per diem.
Yeah. Don't you think? If it's over 50, I don't know, just get quotes and go from there.
I don't know.
Well,
I don't think we're gonna get anybody. It's gonna be less than 50.
Anyone else?
I just say let's give direction and see what happens, quotes, and if it's RFP, do that quick.
Is that a motion?
It's a motion.
Discussion.
Mr. Mator?
Yeah, quotes. I'll second that motion, but I would like to say that we are going after $4.8 million total. All of us.
That's not bad.
That's what Mr. Joe came up with.
That's not counting the big water project still.
Counting the big water projects. How much are the water projects that we've already, 30 million?
Mayor, are you specific just to the water treatment plant?
All our projects.
120 million for everything?
Okay.
Not on this list, Steve.
No, because
that's kept
that-
allowably
that's
specific.
kept allowably specific, that it is extra.
Yeah, and then again, they need to be certified, kiddo.
Of course.
Registered and
They need to be registered and certified.
Mr. Mayor, we had a first and a second.
So there's a motion on the floor by Mr. Romero, a second by Mr. Montoya.
And the motion is to.
And the motion is to seek RFPs for professional services for lobbyists.
Quotes, and if it's beyond the 50,000 on the quotes, I mean, and quotes they can get real quick. If it's beyond that,
Who are you gonna call though, to get a quote?
you could RFP
There's
it.
a listing on the website that you
I
can
know,
call.
but you can't just like pick a lobbyist and say, will you lobby for the
think,
city of Las
Counselor,
Vegas?
Counselor Casey, you know, you might know some good ones that were very productive and worked you hard, and I think Counselor, I mean, I think we've go like that, and then if not, if they're more than 50, RFP or just RFP, I think it's gonna take a little longer RFP to be ready, but
I know, but,
so as long as we're fall within procurement is my,
right. And I think the municipal league, municipal league could help with advertising the RFP. They're usually good and they usually have a list.
is there a typical timeline on an RFP? Can you do it for a certain amount of time? Like,
There's some
issue it?
deadlines because we've got to post it in the newspaper. We've got to get the scope of work together. We've got to make sure we advertise that we're going out for RFP. So there's a lot. There's a lot to an RFP. Is it doable? It is. How much time? It just depends what dates we get from, because we got to go through procurement on this as well. But
I say, that we have nothing to lose. I mean, if Dr. Casey is right and we don't get any for $50,000, we'll probably have to consider another price, but, at least we'll get the quotes and we'll get the proposals and we can decide at that point whether we want to do it or not.
So it's one or the other right
What
now.
is
Do we
it
go
going
to
to be?
quotes or we?
so the motion was to check the quotes, to get quotes, and get as many as you can. If the quotes come in as more than 50,000, then RFP it like ASAP, if that's,
Yeah, but how long are we gonna give them to get those estimate? Who's gonna do who's gonna find the estimates?
gets quotes?
Who's gonna do it?
would,
We usually go through project management to conduct our RFPs on that. So I can get with Maria and see if she can spare one or two of her individuals so that we can get together and see what we can do and the minimal amount of time. So we'll see what the timeline is and
so
then
is
I
that
can
direction kind of, you got
get
kind of,
back to each of you individually and let you know what the timeline would be for an RFP. And meanwhile, I guess we can try to find quotes.
Okay.
So I have a motion and a second.
Motion and a second, please roll call, please.
Counselor Casey?
I knew you were gonna call me first. Darn. Yes.
Counselor Romero?
It was your turn.
Yes.
Counselor Montoya?
Yes.
Counselor Livari?
Yes.
I have a motion by Counselor Romero, a second by Counselor Montoya. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Motion carries.
Thank you. The last order of business, please.
Yes, discussion regarding radio equipment for LVPD Communications Division dispatch radio consoles. We have our police chief, Antonio Salazar.
Welcome, Antonio.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You guys have it's all in the packet here, just so you guys know, but there's also a printed version of it. It's the same thing. The only thing that is added to this is the state contract for Motorola. That's the only thing that's different from your guys' packet on the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, Chief, I'm gonna lash out at you. How come it wasn't in our packet before?
Apologies. I have one, yes.
Mr. Mayor, if I can, I know Chief put this on the agenda, but I just want to note that within my capital outlay request, I did put this item to be in there, so just a heads up, and I don't know if that, we'll have to go and lobby, or the lobbyists will have to do it, but it's on there. It was one of my things that I think that there's a lot of issues within our communications, and so it's on our list as a group. We put the list and we all agreed on it, so.
And I obviously really appreciate that. And this discussion tonight is to let everyone know what our communication is like as of right now, and kind of stress the importance of the need for our communication system, particularly dispatch. Tonight we have a couple of presenters from Motorola. They have more insight on some of the things, some of the equipment that we'll need, more of the dollar amounts, more of the actual, I guess, technical verbiage on what's explained for our console systems and dispatch. So I'll introduce them, and I think we'll be able to pull them up here shortly. But first is Miss Judy Hines, Mr. Walter Watley, Mr. Bill Holliday, and Miss Tiffany Holliday. And all of these individuals are from Motorola, like I said, and they'll be speaking on the packets that you guys have in front of you.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Romero?
So Chief, before we proceed, they are a CES vendor. I mean, we're not gonna kind of violate or?
No, sir. Yes, sir. That's part of the packet that now is on the state contract.
Okay, I just wanted before we start talking. Okay, thank you.
Hi, welcome, and thanks for staying up with us. Go ahead and take it over.
Sure thing. So good evening, Mr. Mayor, Chief, and council members. Thank you so much for inviting Motorola to come and speak on behalf of your public safety communication system. Our intention tonight is to echo the police department's sense of urgency around the status of your public safety communications. They're currently at risk, to be candid. They're aging and they're insufficient for the city's needs. And quite frankly, there's been Band-Aid after Band-Aid applied to your public safety communications for far too long. We've made best efforts when we've been tasked with helping, make the system operable. But at this point, to be honest, even eBay can't supply some of the parts and pieces needed to keep your system going. What we've done is we've pulled together a proposal that the chief has shared that identifies or that outlines an immediate solution that will best address the things that we kind of have prioritized for you to make sure, as the chief mentioned, especially dispatch's needs are met. We're here to answer questions about the proposal. We have a wealth of experience, my team members from Motorola. We have a wealth of experience to share, kind of with past customers, what issues we've seen or what emergencies we've had to address, and we can answer questions about the proposal. We have a ton of expertise. So really anything that you guys would like to discuss, I brought all of my teammates here. I'll do a quick introduction of everyone just so you know who you're speaking with, and then we can proceed to any of your questions. So again, my name is Judy Hines. I'm your local account manager. So I manage the relationship between the city of Las Vegas and Motorola. I am local, so I do live in Estancia, New Mexico. Most people don't know where that is, but so I am a local resource. I've driven out to visit with you guys and toured your police station and dispatch center many times. I also have Walter Waitley on with me. He is my area sales manager. He's based out of Tucson, but is probably in New Mexico more than he is in Arizona because we have a lot of work to do in New Mexico. And then I also have Tiffany Holliday. She is our pre-sales engineer. She is integral in architecting any kind of system proposal that we put together. She spent a lot of time walking sites in the city of Las Vegas to make sure that her recommendation is best for the city. And then you may be able to see Bill Holiday, who's there on camera with Tiffany, and he is our local member and manager of our field service organization in New Mexico. So he's actually the person that comes out, does the work, or his team does, actually touches the system. And I will tell you, he has very intimate knowledge of what you guys do have in terms of public safety communications. So with that, if my team has any additional commentary, go ahead, but I'd also like to open it up for questions from the council, mayor, and the chief.
Anyone?
I have a question for our chief. So chief, how is this gonna work with, right now you're going through state police, New Mexico State Police? Whenever anybody calls the PD station, it goes to state police first and it goes to you guys? How's that work?
No, we have our own separate dispatch from state police.
Oh, okay. Did you have it with state police at one time?
No, sir.
No? Okay. So these are really radios for your cars and your personnel? And, or is it a whole set for replacing the one at the station?
This one specifically for the one at the station is our dispatch center.
Okay, but no radios, car radios or two-way radios come with this?
No, sir.
This is just for the unit itself?
Yes, this is for our dispatch center.
So what else new does it come with other than what we have?
So that question might be able better to be answered by Motorola and their team.
Okay.
So I'll take that question. Thank you again, Chief, for inviting us here, Mr. Mayor and council members. So this is a dispatch console system that we've quoted here. Also, a communications repeater with several control stations that would be located, at your police facility. So this would be used with your dispatchers as they're communicating with the officers that's out in the field. We're going to be, utilizing the existing mobile and portable radios that are in the field. Most of those are of newer purchases. They're not nearly as old as some of the equipment that's out in the field and on your tower sites. For instance, there's a repeater that you have, which is one of the main channels for the police department. That's the model is what we call Quantar, and we haven't manufactured that repeater in over 10 years. So we can no longer get any equipment for that. Also, additional cabling and things need to be replaced too. So you're essentially looking at the backbone or the back end of the radio system that would be almost a full replacement. Anything that's not modern and serviceable, we've included inside of this proposal. I hope that's answered your question.
Did they answer your question, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Muta? Thank you. So it's all the fancy bells and whistles, shiny apple, the best counsel that we could get. Correct? For the money?
Yeah, this is our public safety grade communications console, the same console that the city of Albuquerque, city of Santa Fe, is the same platform. Also, future-proofing your investment as your city grows. This console could, be connected to the state system, could be connected, to other systems in your area, if you decided you wanted to do that down the road. So this is a good platform for you guys to use currently and to grow in as well.
How about redundancy? Let's say this council blows a fuse and shuts down. What kind of redundancy is built in?
So I can field that. My name is
I think Tiffany's trying to answer, but she's still muted.
Can you hear me, guys?
We can hear you, Tiffany.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
So again, my name is Tiffany Halliday. Next to me is my husband. Thank you again for inviting us here, council and chief. We appreciate it. So one of the big things that is going on with the council is we're proposing 3 councils. That is what's existing already in dispatch. There is only 2 up and running right now because one of the councils that the dispatch center has now no longer works. And the problem with that is that they are also very, very hard to find replacements for. And so that's also because they are older councils. With the newer councils, you are able to get replacements with the service contracts that Motorola has. And so there would be new PCs, anything that would be failing would be able to be got. I apologize, would be able to go through with the service contract. And also with the new councils we're proposing, there's redundancy built in with the NIC ports on the back. So you would be able to connect them to the back end in 2 ways. So if you lose one switch in the back, you're still able to use the second one. So there's a lot of redundancy built into the system.
Okay, does the service contract, was that included in this quote?
I believe it was, but I'll let Judy answer that for sure.
Okay.
Yes, it is included. And one additional comment that I'd like to make, because I do see you guys flipping through the proposal. This proposal that we pulled together is budgetary, meaning if we wanted to move forward with a firm proposal for sale, first of all, the cost would likely come down because we do inflate our budgetaries for the purpose of you all being able to budget appropriately. So I want to make that comment because I know that oftentimes the first thing that we look at is the number at the end of the proposal. So that will change as we pull together even more specifics to make a detailed recommendation.
Wonderful.
And I'd like to make a comment as well. You asked about service contracts. The other thing that you could add to this service contract is what we call an SUA, where you would get an upgrade every couple of years, just like you would like your local PCs, your local stuff. We would come in every couple of years, upgrade it, refresh it. And that would, of course, be an added cost, but you wouldn't, if you did it that route, you would never be in the situation that you're currently in now, old stuff.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. So, the SUA contract, just like Bill had outlined, it's to continue to upgrade the system, every 2 years, so that you're always on a supportable platform. And we'd be happy to provide pricing for that as well. Once we work on a final contract, you wouldn't have to enter in that contract right away. You could actually enter in that, a year or so later if you so desired. Just to continue to be able to support those consoles moving forward.
Wonderful.
In terms of maintenance, I feel like I would be remiss to not really be adamant about the heartache that this has caused your dispatch employees and staff. So I know that it would be of huge relief to them, not only to feel good about their communications to support the agencies in the area, but also to not have to guess regarding technical support, to hand this over to Motorola, to let the bills of our team come out and worry about that and calendar all of the upgrades and whatnot, I think would be, you'd get so much more time back for your dispatch staff, and that could probably be reallocated. So I do know that this would offer a lot of relief in many different ways for the city.
Very well.
Ms. Casey?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is, this is a part of our legislative request. We won't know if that's approved or not until March. If we don't get the funding is there money in the budget that you know of, Chief, that we might be able to use to purchase the equipment that's necessary?
There is money in the budget for, minor repairs. But this is this is kind of like what they were saying. And I understand this is, we're advocating for this to be, for legislative to take a look at this and put it higher on the priority list. But, I mean, this is kind of, what we would end up doing is kind of band-aiding the system again and working with the same old system. We simply don't have the budget to come close to what we need to get it, to start laying the foundation for our future communications and I guess the, being able to communicate with other agencies and even our officers out on the field.
I'm concerned because I know that the need is dire, and doing Band-Aid, fixing here and there is not acceptable or workable for the people that have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. So I'm concerned about funding, but right now the only funding that we have then is whatever we get from the legislature. Is there any way that Judy, is there any way that we might be able to, if we don't get the full amount, still maybe be able to get
The most
the most operational consoles or whatever we need from Motorola so that we can work towards getting everything on the same system and getting it to work?
The proposal that you have in front of you is minimal to meet those needs. So I do have to stress that. I think that, well, when I spoke with the chief and Kat, your dispatch director, regarding funding, because of course, that's important. There was hopes that there's emergency funding available. Kat is also doing her due diligence in terms of applying for grants.
Yeah.
But grant funding, as I think everyone knows, grants are tagged for or earmarked for very specific things. And in our research, we've only found one that really we think is applicable to your situation. So I don't think that relying on grant funding is a wise idea at this point. I know that everyone understands that the situation with communications is dire, but specifically, we have one console, so one component for communications down at the dispatch center already. If a second goes down, it's highly likely that communication to your agencies will be lost.
So what is, I'm looking at the numbers, what's the bottom line here? What's the bottom number?
Walter, do you have the proposal in front of you?
Yeah.
And again, this is budgetary, so this is inflated. This won't be the final number, but the bottom line, I believe, is in the neighborhood of 800.
Yeah, so it's $883,500. That includes New Mexico state tax. And then we have a maintenance services estimate in here, which would be us to respond as well, which would be $174,000.
All right. All we have to do is find the money.
It's that easy, right?
We hear that. We hear that a lot.
Mr. Romero?
So I don't know if Judy or you would be able to answer. So you offer training to the dispatchers, or, I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. So training and technical assistance with this equipment, you provide that?
Yeah, keep in mind, this is just a budgetary. The actual proposal will be much, much more lengthy and much more detailed, which we will include training for your dispatchers on the new console platform. Absolutely.
Well, I mean, that would be everybody, but, and the reason why I bring that up, we spent a lot of money and equipment here, and it seems like it's hard to, take care of some of those issues. So I'm just trying to make sure that in this proposal that, the training and technical assistance is included in it, and not just, well, here's your equipment, you come, you set it up, and you're good. So I'd like that throughout, and also follow up that if we have an issue, we have an immediate response, if you could include that to our.
Yeah, so I'll answer that real quick. So as far as maintenance, and I wish my CSM was here. He could probably do a lot more. Your customer service manager. Basically, there's four priorities depending on the severity of your issue. We are a 24/7 response. We have people on call, and so if there's an issue arise, depending on the severity, would depend on when we roll out. Priority one means we would dispatch immediately. Now, Las Vegas from the nearest guy is about 2.5 hours away, so you got some drive time there, but we would respond immediately. Lesser priorities, might be next morning, depending on what it is. As far as making sure your team or your dispatch center is up, I've worked with them, for the past 4 years, off and on. We will definitely assist them in if they don't understand something, we will definitely help bridge that gap to the point of, walking them through everything and making sure that they understand what they're doing and being able to communicate with the field unit as effectively as possible.
Okay, thank you.
And also, sorry, Councilor Romero. So, Mr. and Mrs. Holiday, we met with them a few times, and I mean they're super responsive. So whenever they say they're going to have the trainings here and getting our people accustomed or actually efficient with the systems, any new systems, like I said, they're super responsive. They're even currently working very well with our dispatch manager right now in Catalicia Bar. She's doing her very best to kind of get things going and
They're guardian angels on overtime, is what you're saying.
there you go.
Poor
there you go.
things.
To sum it all up in a couple of words, sorry. Yes.
With all the duct tape and wire and everything that they need. Thank you so much for being so responsive to our community. We really appreciate that. Are there any comments, any more questions?
Mr. Mayor, I just have a question. Is this something that can be phased out where we get a more realistic number that we could afford at this time and just start the process, and then maybe by the time March hits, we will receive the monies that we're putting in for? Or is this something that all has to be done at once?
I guess that'd be Go ahead.
I'm sorry, this is Walter again. Unfortunately, a lot of these systems are failing and they're interconnected. So it would be, the preference that we replace all these systems at one time.
But would we be able to replace the real important ones with the option to purchase the rest later on? I'm just thinking of budget-wise, because obviously we didn't budget for that amount. But there may be something that we can do here and there that could assist them.
The console system has a lot of piece parts. There's backroom racked equipment, and there's the actual consoles that sit on the dispatcher's desk, and there's the radio equipment in the backroom as well. So, I mean, if we put anything more minimal, it just wouldn't. It wouldn't be a system that would work for you guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your time and staying up with us. We really appreciate you. We'll await word, and there'll be a lot of discussion about how we're going to fund this.
Thank you again for allowing us to come here, and we will be available if you have any additional questions in the future.
Thank you. Chief, we done?
Yes, and again, I appreciate you guys for being here and staying up with us. And thank you, Mayor and Council, for entertaining this.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
You too. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Before we adjourn, I was just looking up, can we buy new radios with coronavirus recovery funds? And the internet says, apply for American Rescue Plan Fund to help your department purchase new radios, communication equipment. So maybe we can use,
Or both of them.
yeah, some of that money.
Yeah.
So,
Basically everything that needs to be replaced, from the switches in the room to the radios to the computers, everything is so outdated.
Yeah.
It doesn't take OS updates to the latest version, so basically they're on the verge of this being shut down any day now. The actual switch that controls the radio and all that stuff doesn't take the latest version of the OS. So the actual physical switch that controls all the traffic needs to be updated, otherwise it's gonna fail. And it already is failing. Officers aren't able to do reports and automatics and all that stuff right now.
yeah, I've heard that.
Well, thanks a lot, Zach. Just kidding.
Make us more depressed, yeah.
Just the officers comment about it all.
Yeah,
Yeah,
all right.
okay. Jeez.
Onward through the fog. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. There's a
Second.
motion to adjourn by Mr. Montoya, second by Ms. Casey. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank
Aye, aye,
you. Aye, aye, aye.
April and Pastor Paul, you're on the board for Samaritan House?
Supposed to already spent the money.